Right now, literally at this very second, there is a hidden emergency system on standby inside your body, and it activates the exact second you stop drinking water. You know, most people just assume that when you run out of water, your body slowly weakens until it fails all at once. Like you simply get thirsty, then you get a bit tired, and then boom, it's game over. But the truth is entirely different, and frankly, it's a lot more fascinating. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to look at the exact step-by-step sequence your body follows when it starts running dry. It doesn't just fail, it actually powers down in very specific stages. It has a literal list of what to protect, what to sacrifice, and the precise order in which to do it.
This system isn't just some random biological glitch. It is a precise, downright ruthless order of operations. Think of it as a literal biological countdown. From the moment you stop taking in fluid, your body is making these incredibly active, split-second decisions about what parts of you to keep alive and what parts to gradually just let go of, all in order to buy you just a few more minutes. We're going to map out exactly what that shutdown sequence looks like, hour by hour and system by system.
Okay, let's dive into this by addressing something you've probably heard before, the famous rule of threes. You've probably heard it, right? It states that you can survive 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. It's this really neat, memorable survival myth that a lot of people mistakenly trust. And sure, while it might be a somewhat useful baseline just for general trivia, in a real-world scenario, relying on that 3 days without water rule, that can actually be incredibly dangerous.
There is a massive, massive difference between what I like to call the comfortable lie and the extreme reality. See, that 3-day window assumes you are lying perfectly still, in the shade, in mild, calm weather, doing absolutely nothing at all. But honestly, that's not how people typically run out of water. Add a hot sun, add some physical effort, add a body that's already sweating just trying to cool itself down. When you introduce heat or exertion, that comfortable 3-day window completely collapses. It shrinks from days to mere hours. Why? Well, because you don't even have to be actively working out to lose water. Every single breath you exhale carries moisture out of your lungs. Your skin releases it constantly. Even sitting perfectly still, you are draining the tank way faster than you think.
Which brings us right to the very first phase of this countdown. Stage 1. Silent rationing.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the tiny number you're seeing, 1 to 2%. You see, the countdown doesn't start when you finally notice you need a drink. It actually started hours ago. This silent rationing begins long before you even realize there's a problem. In fact, losing just 1 to 2% of your body's total water volume is the exact threshold that triggers the thirst alarm in your brain. A 1% drop might sound like absolutely nothing, but to your body, it's a massive shift. Your mouth gets dry, you feel a vague, nagging need to find a glass of water. It feels like the very beginning of the problem, doesn't it?
Wrong. Thirst isn't the early warning system at all. It is the late alarm. It's actually the second step in the sequence. By the time your brain finally decides to make you feel thirsty, your body has already been aggressively rationing water behind the scenes for quite a while. The silent alarm already went off, and you completely slept right through it.
Before you ever felt that dry mouth, your internal systems were already furiously pulling levers. Specifically, 2 hormones, vasopressin and aldosterone, were released into your system. You absolutely don't need to memorize those names, but you definitely need to understand what they do. They act as a direct, overriding hormonal command to your kidneys with one simple order: stop wasting water, hold on to everything. Your kidneys immediately stop flushing fluid away and start squeezing every single usable drop right back into your bloodstream. And this is exactly why your urine turns dark and scarce. It's not just a random side effect, it is literal visual proof that the silent rationing program is actively running.
But, rationing can really only do so much. The tank is still draining. And when your body can no longer protect your blood pressure, it enters stage 2, the water heist.
Because your blood is primarily made of water, losing fluid means your overall blood volume starts to drop. And if blood volume drops, blood pressure crashes. That means less blood reaches your vital organs, and your body simply cannot let that happen. So, to keep your blood pressure up and your heart pumping, your body looks for the biggest reservoir of water it has left. And where is that? It's actually inside your own cells. This is known as intracellular water. In a brutal but honestly brilliant move, your body essentially robs its own cells of their water, pulling it out and dumping it directly into the bloodstream. It's the ultimate robbing Peter to pay Paul. And as a result, your cells physically begin to shrink and shrivel up.
Now, no part of your body is more sensitive to this cellular shrinking than your brain. As your brain cells are literally robbed of water, things start to slip. It usually begins with a dull headache. Then you might have trouble concentrating. Soon that shifts into confusion, slurred thoughts, and incredibly poor judgment.
And here is the profound, really tragic irony of stage 2. The body bought you time by protecting your blood flow, but in doing so, it shrank your brain. The very tool you desperately need to make smart survival decisions, like finding shade, seeking water, staying calm, is the exact first thing to fail.
And this brilliantly illustrates the terrifying tipping point we are reaching here. The brain is faltering, the cells are shriveled, and the body is running out of options to borrow time. Which leads us to a highly critical question. What does the body do when there is absolutely no water left to spare for its internal air conditioning? What happens when the sweat simply stops?
The answer brings us right to stage 3, the meltdown. Your internal air conditioning simply shuts off. Without sweat, what was a slow drain suddenly turns into a fast-lane crisis. At this stage, you aren't just fighting one threat anymore. You are fighting 2 separate killers, and they are racing against each other. First, there's overheating. Because the sweat has stopped completely, the natural heat your body generates, just by keeping your heart beating and your lungs breathing, has nowhere to go. Your core temperature begins to climb rapidly. You are literally cooking from the inside. Second, there's toxic buildup. Your kidneys, which are now entirely starved of fluid, can no longer do their second job of filtering waste. So poisons begin to accumulate in your bloodstream. Your blood turns toxic, and your temperature spikes.
And right here, right in the absolute middle of this internal meltdown, comes the cruelest twist of all. In severe late-stage dehydration, you actually stop feeling thirsty. The one alarm you trusted to save you, that desperate overriding need for water, goes completely silent. The brain is so compromised and the physical systems are so overwhelmed that the thirst signal just fades away. Right at the point of greatest danger, your warning system just lies to you.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the absolute point of no return. Stage 4, the cascade. This is the final set of dominoes. With the alarms completely off, the temperature critical, and the blood literally turning toxic, the body finally runs out of tricks. Because so much water has been pulled out of the bloodstream, the blood itself actually thickens. It becomes super viscous and moves incredibly slowly. Your heart tries to compensate by speeding up, racing in this losing battle to push this thick sludge through your veins. But there simply isn't enough volume left. Blood pressure crashes. The kidneys fail completely. Toxins flood the body unchecked. And finally, starved of oxygenated blood and completely overwhelmed by heat, the brain shuts down. One failure triggers the next until the entire system completely stops. So, the crucial point is this. Look at the sequence we just covered. 1. Ration. 2. Rob. 3. Melt. 4. Cascade. This wasn't a random chaotic failure. It wasn't your body just throwing its hands up and giving up. It was a highly calculated triage program. Every single step, from shutting down the kidneys, to stealing from the brain cells, to cutting off the sweat, was a deliberate, desperate choice to sacrifice a lesser function to protect a vital one. It was buying you minutes and hours you otherwise wouldn't have had. When you really understand this sequence, that initial feeling of dread turns into a strange kind of awe. The human body is not fragile. It is a brilliant, brutal triage machine. It plays a losing hand with absolutely incredible strategic genius. It sacrifices your cells, your clarity, and eventually your consciousness in a strict, unyielding order, just to keep the lights on for as long as biologically possible.
But, the absolute brilliance of this machine is exactly why you need to be smarter than the alarms it gives you. If you wait for severe thirst, you're already behind. If you wait until the thirst goes away, you're in the meltdown. The real warning signs, the ones you actually need to watch for in everyday life, happen in stage 1 and stage 2. Dark urine, a dull, lingering headache, that very first slip in focus or poor decision-making. These are the physical clues that your body's silent rationing program is already well underway.
Understanding this sequence means you never have to be caught off guard by the rule of threes ever again. You now know about the hidden countdown that runs inside all of us. So the next time you're out in the heat or pushing yourself hard, I want to leave you with this. Will you wait for the late alarm that will eventually just go silent? Or will you listen to your body's silent early warnings before the water heist even begins? The choice and the knowledge is now entirely yours.